There we are. And there I am. Cool. It's blurry in the background. I guess I'll give people a quick second just to join the stream. Awesome. Well, hi everyone. My name is Giancarlo. I guess I'll talk more about that literally in the next slide. But first off, I just wanted to kind of say thank you. This is like really cool that I'm doing this, and like I've never done this before. You'll learn very soon that like this is a very like new thing for me. But I'm thankful that like Tony reached out. I think this is a really cool community. I've been kind of a professional lurker here, and I really hope to change that. Just kind of just seeing all the cool events and things and meetups that you guys do. Like I hope to kind of make this a more regular thing and kind of come out of the shadows if possible. But cool, yeah. I guess I'll kind of go ahead and dive into to desktop golf, and we'll go from there. So I guess I'll just very briefly talk about myself, just to kind of explain like who I am. I said a little bit a moment ago, but like not really. So my name's Giancarlo. If you ever meet me online or chat with me online, you'll probably see the name Drak, because Drak is hard to get. You'll see Hello Drak a lot more for just like websites or whatever. I'm a full-time software developer. I've been doing that for about 10 years. Um, Probably, I think it was like my COVID hobby. I kind of got into 3D modeling and just kind of discovered the world of Blender and really just like fell in love with that. Um, and around that time, I kind of tried getting into indie dev. I'm gonna try and be a little bit fast in this section because I know we're here to talk about the game and not me. But a few years into that, I then got into game dev with my friend Matt, who's actually in this chat right now. Um, it was around the time where the whole like Unity runtime fee thing was going on, and you started hearing a lot more about other engines. Um, and it was around that time that I was like, hey, like I've tried out Unity for a little bit. Personally, I didn't connect with it, and I'll talk about that in a different slide. But I then discovered Godot, and it was like really cool. I loved the community, and I've literally been using Godot arguably every single day since. So for me, it's just like an indie kind of hobby thing that I do on my free time. Um, and I've been doing that for about 2 years now. Um, in the span of those 2 years, I've obviously just been leveling up, trying to keep like skilling up as much as I can. Last year, I actually worked with some friends, hi Mary and Matt in the chat, to work on a more serious game together that we actually showed off at the Baltimore Indie Fest. It was kind of my first real time kind of interacting with this community, and it was very, very cool, a very cool event. Um, but also around that time, I just kind of wanted to work on something a little bit smaller, something that I could just kind of do solo, just to kind of keep my creative juices flowing. Um, and November of that year, of last year, I started Cast and Card, which is just like a small little company. It's just me, where I make indie games. And which you'll learn literally in the next slide. A month later, I released my first game called Desktop Golf. So I guess we'll just kind of dive into that. So, what is desktop golf? It's this little thing that you're seeing in the bottom corner of my screen. So, it's meant to be a relaxing mini golf game that floats right on your desktop. I'll talk about the relaxing part in a second. But it's very much inspired by games like Rusty's Retirement. I don't know if anyone's heard of Rapuka's Idle Island. I've always been really intrigued by those games that kind of don't take up your full screen. I thought Rusty's was very cool, and that like it just kind of sits at the bottom, and you can kind of do other things while these kind of idle games just keep running. Rapuka's kind of made me more interested in the idea of more like a floating island rather than something that just consumed a whole portion of your screen. So kind of with that, and then just with like just kind of I don't know random ideas that came to me. I thought it'd be really cool to kind of have a little bit of like a mini golf game that just kind of sits on your desktop whenever you wanted to do a putt you could. It was very much designed to be low attention. I very quickly realized that when people wanted to play the game, they were there to play the game, which is cool. It was supposed to be relaxing. A lot of my friends and most people that have played it have mentioned how triggered they get when they play the game, but that's not necessarily them saying they dislike the game. They had a lot of fun. It's just I get it. Like you try to get a hole in one and you didn't because the ball popped out. Meant to be relaxing, but it's been kind of funny when people message me like fun game, but like I am like angry. So sorry, but But yeah, I mean, again, like the goal of it, because it's not a full screen game, is that it's supposed to be something that you really just kind of glance at. Maybe you can be giving a presentation or a post-mortem about the game, and if you want to, you can go down here and do a little putt if needed. And because of that, I really wanted to make sure that the game was fully transparent. So obviously, oops, let's go. What did I click? Oh, so obviously, like, there is like a transparent window here, and you can do that with almost any game, but I really wanted to make sure that, as you just saw a moment ago, even these little spaces in between kind of the course, these little holes in the course, that will allow you to react with whatever's going on behind it. And I really wanted it to feel like it is a floating island, and not just a little bit of like transparent trickery where, like, oh no, you really just can't interact with this square at all while it's running. Like, that kind of took away from the purpose of the game. So that was kind of like the goal of it. But yeah, it's just 100 levels of just essentially just playing mini golf. Um, and I'll talk a little bit more like technical around the game. So like I'd mentioned a moment ago, Godot is like, I literally have a Godot plushie sitting right next to me right now. Is the engine that I used. I use version 4.4 in the mono version. I went with mono because of all of just the transparency kind of like window hacking that I had to do to make sure the game worked. I had to use that version of Godot. If anyone cares, I use the compatibility renderer. It's cool that I can be a little bit technical in this call. I was telling that to someone the other day. But anyway, in terms of level generation, like actually making the levels, I used a tool called Asset Forge, which some of you may already be familiar with. It's developed by an amazing human named Kenny. And I actually can quickly show you that very quickly because I have it open. So as you can kind of see here, I use Asset Forge to kind of build the levels. The assets themselves actually also came from Kenny. There are some things I discovered while developing the game that I'll talk about in a moment that required me to bring in all the assets and clean them up in Blender a little bit before I built them. But I once they were all kind of all set and made, I then literally, as you can kind of see on the side, I had a little mini golf thing, and I just crafted the levels. Well, I started crafting the levels. Um, but yeah, as you can kind of see, if you're not familiar with Acid Forge, literally just kind of dragging and dropping some things and just kind of being creative and making kind of whatever level I wanted to kind of make. So literally the level that you're seeing right here on your screen with the game running, I just wanted to kind of show you like this is how it looks inside of Acid Forge, which is super cool. I uh, I I guess I'll go ahead and dive into this. So, like, for me, the game was meant to have a really short life cycle. I really wanted the game to be completed by the end of the year, and I really wanted the game to kind of be small. And one of the big things I'll mention in maybe a slide or two is I really wanted to release the game for in time for the Steam Sports Fest. So, with that, as I was making these levels, I realized I think about 15 of them I had handcrafted. And not only was it just like a little bit harder for me to craft, like be really creative and kind of make some like fun levels. This idea actually was taken from Kenny. This was not my creation. But like I also realized that like I was just running out of time. So after about 15 levels, I was like, dude, there's no way you're gonna get this game out in time. At least given like the timeline that you're trying to kind of follow. And I was like, man, I wonder if there's a way that I can like speed things up or maybe just release less levels. And then I realized, wait, Acid Forge allows you to feed in scripts and build things procedurally. So kind of going back to the presentation, um, after about 15 handcrafted levels, I was like, all right, this is fun. This is cool. I'm very much a part of these. I decided to go procedural, which is really cool because I was able to press a button and have the remaining levels, 85 levels generated probably within like, 2 minutes. So that was really, really cool to kind of experience and play around with because I'm not a big procedurally generated. I'm not good at proc gen, but it was a really fun thing to learn. And for me, being a new indie dev and like still skilling up every single day, like it's honestly what it's all about. I love learning, and it's been really cool to like level up in any kind of aspect of game dev that I can. Um, Once the levels were finished, I brought them into Blender. Just do a little bit of cleanup. I mentioned a moment ago some of the cleanup I had to do. I ran into something that I learned about in this game called ghost collisions, where a lot of times because of just how Asset Forge is exporting these levels, the topology was just weird enough where if I would hit the ball, it would literally just like fly off the map randomly, and I had no idea what was going on. And I found out that it was literally colliding with like the wall underneath the level. So once the levels were done, I brought them into Blender. I had a really quick workflow where I mean, each level maybe took me like 2 minutes to clean up, if that. Just to kind of clean up the topology a little bit. So when I brought it into Godot, I wouldn't have to worry about any potential ghost collisions. Um, there are some. I did change physics engines inside of Godot, which supposedly fix those ghost collisions. I tinkered around with a lot of the settings. Unfortunately, I just wasn't able to get it working, which is fine. I mean, again, I could spend more time tinkering with it, but this just goes back to me really wanting to keep the game small and release it like on time. Um, while also working on a larger game with some friends, while also being a full-time developer, while also, being a father of two kids. So time was a really important thing, and I was like, I think I'll just clean this up in Blender and like not give myself a headache that might take me a few weeks. Um, so start to finish, the whole game took me about 6 months, and yeah, I released it December 1st of last year, which was really cool because I was able to make it right in time for the Steam Sports Fest. So that was really awesome. Um, I know like with these postmortems, obviously now I talk about like looking back, things that I've learned, things that I would do differently. So let's I guess kind of dive into that a little bit. Um, a lot of the things I kind of had mentioned earlier in this chat. I'm gonna kind of repeat, but yeah, I'll just kind of dive into it like a little bit more. I mean, first and foremost, procedural levels were like the biggest thing. I mean, it saved me so much time because, crafting the levels once I had them in my head didn't take that long and it was very fun. So that also allowed, like, I was able to zip through them. But once I started running out of creative ideas, there were some levels I made that were just so gnarly. And I was like, no one's gonna want to play this. And like, I could tell that, like, I think I was just kind of running out of my creative juices weren't flowing in that kind of way anymore. Going procedural really saved me on time, because again, I really wanted to make it in time for the Steam Sports Fest. That was a really huge thing for me. Um, I guess another thing that I'll mention in this section as a little bit of a background is I with my background in game dev in the past 2 years, I really wanted to. I've tried making a lot of different games. I tried making my dream game. Of course, that was my first one. I've tried making games that were like, really just like I knew were going to take me multiple years to develop. And for me, not only did I want to have this game released in time and follow a really strict schedule, but desktop golf was very much a way, and it's kind of me leading into the second bullet point, was very much a way of me proving to myself that like I can do this. Like I love making games. I've really been enjoying it. But I really want to see if like this is something that I could do potentially professionally. So, when I look at my backlog of games that I was about 20% of the way in, and then a new idea came up, or I just gave up on that game, it kind of made me realize like, is this something I can do this hobby all day, and I would love that. But is this really something that I can potentially do professionally? So being able to cross the finish line and make it by December 1st, make it in Steam Sports Fest, that was the main objective for desktop golf. I wasn't really going for sales with at least the first game. I really was just trying to prove to myself like, no, you can see a product end to end. So making sure the levels are procedural to get it released on time was huge. Keeping the game small. Um, I I mean most of you have probably heard about howtomarketagame.com. There's a guy, Chris Sikowski. He talks a lot about keeping games very small. And like for me, all of my games were these grand RPGs that are going to be voiced and written like amazing. And I hope to make those one day. But for me, with this game, again with all the other things I was kind of juggling, my objective was like keep it small. Originally, desktop golf was supposed to be kind of a live multiplayer, like everyone's playing together. You're seeing everyone's balls go at the same time. There was going to be a lot more features added, whether it's changing the skins or unlocking different skins. And those are very much things that I can do down the road if I want to. But for me, it just went against the main objective of keep this game small, make the 100 levels, and release this thing because it felt very scope creepy. And again, like I said, I can always go back and improve on this later. Um, Another thing that went well was using an engine that worked for me. So I had mentioned before that like I had tried using Unity in the past. This is not me knocking on Unity at all, by the way. But for me personally, it just didn't connect with me. I wasn't really vibing with the engine that much. And whenever I would go and like do tutorials or whatever, like I would just kind of fall out of it. But that's just me and my own experience. And with Godot, I mean, anyone that has talked to me about Godot, I always say that, at least for me, I feel like I'm playing a video game when making video games in Godot. And for me, like that, mixed with just the community and kind of the fire around it, especially at that time. I love it. I love the process of developing, and I was very much that kind of person that would watch YouTube videos that were 30 minutes long, comparing every engine, like which is the right one for you. And whenever they would say, "Oh, like whatever works for you in your project," I'd be like, "No, I need an answer," and I'd go to the next video. But they're right, and that's why I'm saying, like, I'm not knocking Unity. I think at the end of the day, I was able to pick an engine that worked for me and for the game that I wanted to make. So I think that also is what really contributed to me being able to kind of cross this finish line, because I adore Godot. Um, I guess this isn't too much about like the game per se, but like I do want to mention this. Like I made a game that was fun, and I thought that was like kind of cool. I will kind of kind of pat my own back for a second. It's really cool to see like the people that have like played it to support me, but also said like, no, like I actually really am enjoying this. So I think I guess in terms of things that went well is that like I guess I made a fun game, which is like really neat to see, and like to see like people are still playing the game, and like a friend will launch the game and I message them like, "What are you doing? You trying to get my attention?" They're like, "No, I'm playing desktop. Like I actually want to play the game right now." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry." So that's it's just been really cool to see that like people have like enjoyed it. So I guess just that positive feedback has been like really cool to see. And this last one's an interesting one, but like honestly, I had to make a comment about it because it is arguably one of the biggest reasons why I was able to like complete this game. Last year, I kind of got into just the idea of like body doubling, which is a technique that's typically used for people with ADHD that kind of like allow you to be productive by working alongside other people, whether it's physically, whether it's virtually. And I discovered a Twitch category called co-working and studying, where you literally do that. Where you just will watch a streamer or you'll be with a community and you all kind of work on your projects, whatever they are, together. And for me, I think that is one of the biggest changes. I mean, along with a lot of these other bullet points that allowed me to be successful in completing this game. Just having that accountability, and just also just being in a group of like just like a productive study group was like really cool. So I highly encourage people that like I wanted to just mention like community as the bullet point, that like you know I really do want to encourage people, like if it is something that you do struggle with, like give it a shot. It's really cool, and for me, like it really changed like how I'm able to focus and get things done. And it's also just fun to be able to like work alongside other people and like cheer each other on, which is really neat. So and yeah, so if you do struggle with like looking for a community, obviously we're in a community right now, which is super cool. But there are so many co-work streams and co-work communities out there that would like love to have you a part of them, especially if you're like kind of struggling to stay focused. So yeah. Now going into what didn't go well. Um, Honestly, like I know I put marketing 3 times, but it's the truth. So I did kind of give you that background a moment ago about desktop golf and how like this really wasn't something that was designed to be lucrative, to make a lot of sales. I am thankful that like because of the positive feedback, and because of like the little marketing that I did, and because of Steam Sports Fest, it did sell pretty well, which was cool. But with me looking back and also with like looking forward to the game I'm currently working on, um, even though that wasn't an objective of desktop golf, that doesn't mean that I should be like, oh well, like I'll learn about marketing later. Like I definitely want to understand and like and take notes from like what could I have done differently, even if it technically wasn't the goal of it. So really that was probably like the biggest thing. Like I mean, I'll mention Chris Sikowski one more time, but I mean, the guy makes a living off of just kind of studying how to market video games. um the game did have like pretty low wish lists, which I know is a really big thing. Desktop golf never made it into like Next Fest. I never did anything like that. I never talked about desktop golf until a month before it came out. I think I mentioned it in the server maybe a month before. I mentioned it in Kenny's server a month before. And there was even when the game was released, there was even someone in Kenny's community that had said like, "Hey, like I kind of wish you had talked about this like a little bit earlier. Like, I mean, this is cool that you like made this game and like you've used a bunch of Kenny's products, but like it would have been really neat. Like we literally had a little like community thing the other day where we were like showing off these kind of things. Um, so like I kind of explained to them the same deal, but again, it was a note that I took to that I made note of. That going forward, like desktop golf was a way for me to kind of cross the finish line, but I've been able to prove that to myself, which has been really cool. But now going forward, it's like, okay, it's time to really put in that work and learn that side of it in terms of ways of like reaching out to streamers or just doing whatever I need to do to help with that visibility and marketing. So in terms of things that didn't go well, I'm not able to quit my job with desktop golf, but that's okay, at least for this first game, because I'm having fun and that's all that really mattered for that project. But going forward, I would say that's definitely like the biggest lesson that I've learned here. That I'm thankful that I was able to release in time for Steam Sports Fest. People sent me pictures that they saw my game on the front page because people enjoyed it, and I guess that little activity with obviously supportive friends, which I adore, helped kind of give it that visibility. Um, that helped with that initial push, but like obviously needing getting wish lists. I mean, a lot of you guys probably already know the story, like, or the whole game. Like wish lists really matter, and and skipping next fest and all things like that obviously are things that like I won't do going forward for another game, for my next game. But yeah, I mean, so that's pretty much everything. I mean, I guess I'll just go to the last one, which is just me saying thank you. Um, yeah, I guess if you guys have any questions or concerns, I'd love to hear them.
I am deeply concerned about how awesome of a presentation that was. You're thanking us, but thank you, man. That like hearing your thoughts, and I am privileged in that I know you. You are my friend, and I've had something of a view into the process of the development of this game, but I didn't have the whole picture. So thank you for putting this together, and thank you for showing us.
Thanks, Matt. That's nice.
So I have a question. When you started to think about the scope of how you was going to market or how you was going to expand it, was that a thought process? Like, am I going to like when you first started? Well, this is because it just seemed like you just wanted it to be small, and then you figured, okay, since it got bigger, I I should have marketed this better, not realizing how big it was going to be. I mean, so was that like a bad foresight? Like, okay, I'm gonna just keep it to this small and market it for this small.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, like I guess I didn't mention this, but when I made the game, I mean, because like I said, I really was just trying. It was like more of like a mental, like, can you do this, kind of thing. Um, in my mind, and I truly mean this, like after like my mother-in-law buys the game 5 times for her friends, like I was like, if I can make like 20 sales from this game, like whoa, that would be the biggest thing ever. So it was cool when like the game, like the first time it passed like 100 sales, like even that was like, it blew my mind. And the time I would get like a review of someone that like wasn't my friend. So no, for sure. I mean, like I it's hard looking back on that because like I don't see it as regret because like I'm looking at how I felt in the moment when I made that decision and finding comfort and confidence in that rather than basing my thoughts and opinions on the effects that kind of came from it. So yeah, I could look at that and I'll be honest, I'm not a perfect person. There are many times where I've looked back, I'm like, man, like I could have marketed this game a little bit harder. Like why didn't I do the multiplayer thing I was talking about? Um but again, I just try to bring myself back and be like, dude, like think about the purpose of this game, what you were doing when you originally had made it, not when you found out that like you kind of made something that was a little bit fun and like maybe if I would have like been a lot more serious with marketing or whatever or talked about the game and gone the next fest, like man, what could it have been? um I'm not gonna lie to you and say that isn't a thought that I had, for sure. But for me, like it was just a big driving force on like my next game and my future products or my future projects. Like I just want to, like you know, if I do this again for my next game, it's like, okay, like here's now another thing I need to kind of like another hurdle I want to get over. It's like, hey, again, like there's nothing wrong with just being a hobbyist, but like I really want to see if I can do this indie thing. So I understand that marketing is really important. So I hope that kind of answers the question.
You mentioned that you used procedural generation for most of the levels. From a game design perspective, did you have to go in and kind of modify the layout of those procedurally generated levels?
For sure. So for me, it was all like obstacles and stuff. So a lot of times I would go in and yeah, I can quickly just like I mean it's probably take 2 seconds. I would quickly go in and let me find you. You're right here on my desktop. Um, and my scripts. And so if I just clicked it right now, like here's an example like level that was just procedurally generated. Like I made sure that no, like, I mean, because again, very new into pursuit generation. And as much as I wanted to like spend a quarter, leveling up my skills, it just was something I didn't have the time to do right now. Um, so for me, like it would make a level like this, just kind of given like the very basic knowledge that I learned about it. And then I would go in and like add more obstacles, whether it was like a fan, whether or I would maybe remove something if I felt like something was a little bit too repetitive, maybe put in like a hole in the ground, the windmills, things like that. And that allowed for like, because like 100 levels, like, I mean, let me run it one more time, watch it look the same. But like 100 levels, like, eventually, like, you're seeing a lot of zigzags and stuff. And I wanted it to be more than just a bunch of zigzags. So at least because that was how I at least designed the generator. Um, so yeah, after I did generate them, I did go once it was in the engine and added a lot of like the fans and the windmills and things like that. And I wanted to do a little bit more, like adding like a bounce pad and like more kind of like wacky uh, uh, obstacles. But again, for me, I was like, nope, this is more than just moving something over that I've animated and put some colliders on, like maybe for a future update. But yeah, I did go into Godot and have to and wanted to give them a little bit more character.
You covered most of it, but I was wondering, can you see a different, do you notice the difference between, you said you made about what, 30 handmade levels and the procedural ones? Could you tell the difference between those two sets of levels or no?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like if you play the game, you will very much be like, yeah, this is not a procedural one. Like I said a moment ago, when I said the word zigzag, like most, I mean, again, I'm new at this, and I'm excited to keep kind of like skilling up in that world. But it's hard. Procedural generation is tough.
Yeah.
And yeah, so for me, like a lot of these, like I mean, literally this level you're kind of looking at right now, like a lot of these were procedural, and there are just, I mean, I can't think of a number off the top of my head, but like there are some that like are very much like I'm gonna take a guess. I'm gonna say 44. Yeah, 44. So this is one I like made by myself. Like even like you're never really gonna see any that dip down, and like this was just kind of a fun one with like an open back. Like that was one that I kind of thought to myself. It's purple because my one friend helped me QA the game, and they love the color purple. So it's the one purple level as a way of me saying thank you so much for just kind of like playing around with the game and doing some QA stuff. Like I really appreciate it. But so yeah, no, I mean like especially at this point in like my procedure generation like journey, um I laugh at your question because like absolutely you can tell which one I've made and which one was procedural because like the ones I made I feel have a little bit more character,
Yeah.
whereas like the procedural ones work, they do the job. People mention having fun with it, like all enjoying those levels, but I feel like personally there's a little bit more character too. Like I think it was 15 that I handcrafted myself.
Yeah, I mean, I was halfway asking that because I had a game that I made before that had, it was basically a logic puzzle game that I'd made some levels and then I just kind of procedurally generated the rest of them. And you could certainly tell the difference because even if it's subconscious, I guess the design motivations can be a little bit different between the two. And playing them could feel different because the ones I made, when you solved it, there was almost like a eureka moment. And the procedurally generated ones, you could get through them, but it was kind of like you figure out how to do this hard puzzle, but it wasn't like that, personal, like, oh, I figured this thing out. It's kind of like I just
Yeah.
pushed through it.
No, I mean that's a great point, and I fully agree with you. I mean, like like I mentioned a moment ago, like with your procedural levels, yeah, you're able to get through them, but I think having that human kind of element, like allows you for your handcrafted levels to. I mean, like, or again, there are some programming wizards out there that are like, hold
Yeah.
my beer, like, what are you talking about? But for me, like, like I look forward to the day where I can make a procedural level that feels human, that feels very much like, and it's not just like it looks good, but like I don't know how to describe it right now, but there's like a certain way to just know that this was made by a human. There's that like even like the open back here. Like again, some person can be like, dude, you can just code an open back here where the ball falls off. But like for me, that feels like a very human kind of like design decision that I made rather than and again, please, to the procedural people in the chat that are like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I understand. Like, eventually, this is something that you can do. But I feel like that was something that like you got to see a little bit of me in that level. So I know I hear you completely, and I totally get that.
Okay. On the plus side, as a player, it never really occurred to me that the levels were procedurally generated. I mean, maybe it's just the nature of mini golf. We have a couple of questions in chat. Michael is asking, have you considered reaching out to golfing magazines to see if they would write an article?
I have not. I have not. I mean, honestly, that's a great no. I've honestly never been asked that question or thought about that. I've reached out to my golfing friends, but then quickly realized that they're like, cool, but like I kind of want to go play golf, and I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. Um, but that's actually a really great question, and I'm kind of like locked up right now because I really never thought about that. That's a really great question, and no, I haven't thought about that, but for sure that is something that I should do, especially now that it is kind of a coincidence, but like I got into golf like the month after I released this game. So yeah, that might actually be kind of a neat thing to do. I see another question here. So can we see the game? Yeah, for sure. So I mean, I know it's been like so tiny, and it's like, dude, my eyes will bleed if I play this game. So yeah, I mean, like if I just even go to like the first level and just kind of show you like how it is, ignore Asset Forge. It's just going to confuse people. But like you can kind of see that it just kind of sits here. If I zoom in enough, you kind of notice that there is a window here because I realized that like it would just be a little bit too hard to like zoom in without it then consuming your whole screen. So there is a window, but again, it is very much transparent. Like you're the game only reads your mouse movement when your cursor is over top of the game. And if it is not, if it's going through a hole or whatever, it sends that action um um to whatever's happening behind the game. So I mean literally what I would just do, I mean it's mini golf in a sense, and you probably played golf games like this before. I literally just hold my mouse, I move it up and down. You can move your mouse outside of the game if you want to. And then you just release whenever you're ready and the ball will go in. Please go in. Please go in. Please go in. Thank you. Um, and it's literally that for 100 holes, and obviously that was the first level. But as you can see, like I really wanted that the first few levels to kind of start off very basic. I'm loving these golf gifts that are showing up on my other monitor right now. But just kind of introducing people to different kind of obstacles, like you can bounce it off the wall. And all the way until I was clicking another random level like 15. This was like, just like very early, like me playing around with the fans, and I was like, you know what, this is a fun level that I'll leave in there. But this was just kind of showing people different obstacles. But as you can see, you can then hit the ball. You can then hit the ball. That's actually really funny. That was one of the ghost collisions, and that's crazy that we just saw one of those. That shouldn't have happened. But anyway, I could hit the ball, and just I don't know how much I want to. I don't feel like you guys are like, dude, you're literally explaining to us how like a mini golf game works right now. But yeah, this is the game in action. It's really just I had a bunch of different courses. I gave it a bunch of different obstacles, and you just try to hit the ball in the hole. I know that is a bug report. That is gnarly to catch that right now. Sorry, it is kind of hard hearing people in the room. Could someone, whoever, I think I just saw like your mic turn green. Could someone say something again?
Oh, sorry. Excuse me, losing my voice. But yeah, the question is, you said PropGen was the main thing that went well and enabled you to finish the game on the timeline you wanted. How often did you do more than clean up a procedurally generated level for physics artifacts? For instance, use the generated level as the base design for a level, and then you alter it.
I mean, honestly, it was maybe probably the first like 5 levels, where I just kind of like started with like a basic one and just kept kind of expanding off of that. And I think that's why after about 15 levels, I was like, I gotta find another way to do this, because I'm slowing down. Um, each of the 15 that I made just looked so incredibly different. Um, So yeah, I didn't really like recycle them too much. I mean, it's not a bad idea, to be honest. I'm not saying that's necessarily like something that I don't vibe with. Um, I just think at the time, like when I was making them, it was just like, oh, I got this idea, and I wanted to have this kind of design, and I have this idea, and I want to have that kind of design. So I imagine I probably could have made it to a lot more levels if I did that. Um, but yeah. That's a really great question.
You know,
So
always do DLC.
Sorry, Tony, could you say it one more time?
I was just adding, you can always,
Am I the only one that can't really hear them?
No, I
No,
think that
it's
there's an
very
issue with
difficult
the
to hear
mic.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're like having a really hard time hearing you
I
guys.
think it's just because the
I think
mic is
Tony may just
far
be a little far
away.
from the
and it's-
microphone. He's trying to
Yeah.
suggest that you provide downloadable content.
For sure. Yeah, are we sorry? The question was like, could this be downloadable content? Is that what the question was?
Yeah, why not use additional, now that you're good at creating the levels and you want to tweak it and improve that aspect of it, go ahead and do it and offer it as DLC to the existing product.
For sure. Yeah, and that's something that like, when I mentioned like the multiplayer, and a lot of people were like, dude, where's your leaderboard? I want to know that I'm the best in the world. Like, I agree completely. And the really cool thing about these kind of games are just like software in general is that like I guess there's also one thing that can be a little bit annoying depending on what you're making is that they never really end. You can just resurrect them whenever you want or just keep working on them. So no, for sure. There have been a lot of like quality of life things that people have said like, hey, like I'd like to be able to like do this a little bit faster. The leaderboard. Maybe if I do want to add multiplayer, that is like another thing to consider. I mean, for me, very much like, I hate saying this because like it I feel that I mean this is my own personal struggle of like doing this for the love of it versus like wanting to also kind of make a career out of this. Like I also do acknowledge that like desktop golf like, you know, again on the marketing side like wasn't really there. So I do have that internal struggle sometimes of like does it make sense to kind of start working on my next game that I'm excited about that like I've already kind of started marketing and talking about versus going back to something that like maybe didn't do that well and like I hate saying this, but like, what is that kind of return on investment that I would get out of adding that feature? So it's something that I've thought about, but at the same time, and this is just like the person that I am, like a lot of times I do just kind of say like I don't care. I just want to do what's like fun and like what brings me joy. So for sure, like I've told a lot of friends like I made 100 levels because like that is the end of desktop golf. But like you never really know. Like there have been times where I'm like, maybe I should go in and make some changes. So no, that's a really great point. And like, as much as like if you asked me a month ago, I'd be like, DLC's out of the window. I can't say that now. So yeah, that's a really great point.
I have a related question. I'm very interested in your 6-month timeline and how you, if you knew from the beginning that that was going to be your timeline, if you stuck to it, what sacrifices did you make in order to stick to it, and what sort of best practices did you have in order to land exactly where you wanted to land? As someone who has projects that sort of meander for years,
But you're the one that has that problem.
I'm the one guy. I'm interested in any successes you've had in that area.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I made that one bullet point in the end of like what went well, and like I really do stand by that. Like for me, I I acknowledge that like, my brain isn't why I mean, in an ideal world, I start a project and I like get it done. I had messaged somebody a few years ago that's been making this like beautiful game and they've been working on it for like 10 years. And I asked him, I was like, "How? How have you not jumped onto another project?" Cuz in this past 4 months, my backlog has 80 different games that I've worked 10% of the way through and then my new idea came up. And I'm like, this is more fun." So like, how can you just stick to that? And like the person literally was just like I'm just built different. Like not in that kind of way, but like and I was like, yeah, so like rather than me trying to be like you, and they're like my brain just can only have me work on one thing. And I'm like, okay, this is a great conversation. I learned so much. My brain does not work like your brain. So for me, like what really kept me on track was, I mean, like I had mentioned, was finding like a community of like coworkers and people that, yes, that GIF is exactly the person I spoke to. Um, um, was just talking to like it was finding a community of people that like they were like, hey, listen, like I'm here to be productive. I'm here to get stuff done. And for before, I had joined a lot of game dev communities, and like this isn't knocking game dev communities at all, but like a lot of times, like if it's not run the right way, it very much turned into like just talking about video games or then just playing video games, and there's nothing wrong with that. Shout out Rocket League, but like I very much like was looking for a community that like no, like our main objective here and like is to be productive, whether it's cleaning my house for the day, whether it's starting a new Twitch career or whatever, or whether it's my health, or whether it's building a video game. So for me, I that was like probably one of like the biggest uh ways things that kind of kept me on track. Because how at least these communities kind of work is like using like a Pomodoro technique. So like when you are focused, you really are locked in, but then it also allows you to have breaks. And I've tried doing that in the past, but being able to do that with like other people, and as you kind of become a regular, like you all kind of know each other and what everyone's working on. Um, I mean, it's literally the concept of body doubling. Um, it really worked out for me. Also, I don't know if you can see, but there's some black bags on my eyes. Another way that I was able to cross that finish line was lack of sleep. So 2 a.m. I don't miss you anymore. Um, that one of the first things I did was like I will not be going to bed that late ever again. Um, so yeah, I'll also be very just honest there. Like because I'm a full time developer, because I'm a father, because I'm a husband, and I'm a friend. I accepted the fact that like I was not okay with lessening that time. So unfortunately, I don't know if I should use the word unfortunately, but the decision I made was to sacrifice all my sleep. So I know that was a little bit of like this is not me telling people to pull all nighters. It's not good for your health. But that was at least one way because of this really strict schedule that I made. That, but mostly the body doubling allowed me to kind of like just stay motivated when like some new game comes out and like everyone's playing Expedition 33 and I'm like I gotta wait until I'm done this game because I'll fall off. It allowed me to be in a community where the one community where no one's playing Expedition 33. So yeah. And I really like Mischievous. That's my favorite Pokemon, Petunia. So yeah.
I have a quick question about body doubling, and then there's another question in chat. Um, when you were doing that, did you commit ahead of time to show up, or did you just drop in? And for how long were the sessions?
Great question. Yeah, I mean, for me, it was mostly like in the evening. So like, once everyone's down and stuff, it'd be like probably like I'd say like 3 to 4 hours maybe. I would attend maybe like three Pomos sessions or maybe four. Um, sorry, I'm trying to think about some of the other things you said about that. Um, and yeah, it was. I did have like I knew the schedule of the. I mean, and there are good and bad co-work streamers out there, and there's obviously ones that vibe with everyone. That's why I'm not here being like join the one that I'm in, join the one that works for you. But um, for me like the schedule of the person that was doing their co-working like just worked for me but yeah I very much like that was like one thing that like I had to decide for myself like I will be joining the stream. I will be doing this. And I think, that notification of like, hey, so and so has gone live is my way of just being like, no, like it's time to go lock in now. Like maybe I had a little bit of downtime. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But now it's time to focus. Um so so yeah, I did really work hard to establish that. And like, a lot of people, some of the people that are in this chat today, like never really saw me in Discord when people would kind of have evening hangouts because as much as I wanted to, it would just be really distracting. And like I'm not gonna come in and say no one can talk about gaming. So it was just a commitment that I made. Um, and I just told people like I mean a lot of friends that were like, hey, let's get dinner, let's get lunch sometime. I would always say like, can we talk about this in like early December? And they're like, yeah, let's talk then. Well, dinner and lunch, I believe you obviously you can still make time for that. I guess I maybe should have said like people that wanted to do like late night gaming in the middle of the week, and it's like like this is my schedule. I really have to stick to this because my brain is fighting me. It really wants to play Final Fantasy 14. So yeah.
Do we have any other questions?
Does the game, you talked about the levels. Does the game uh, advance you to the next level on its own, or do you just have to every time you log on, click on to the next whatever level you didn't play before?
Great question. Yeah, no, it will start you at level one every time you join, but as you can see from my screen, it remembers like your score and stuff, so you can then go wherever you uh like left off. So I mean, I think this is gonna show every level because I've completed them all with this save. But yeah, whenever you launch it, it returns you just kind of back to the beginning, and like it's really meant that when you launch the game, you just go into your level select and just decide where you want to go. So at least that's how I did it. But yeah, it at least is saving your progress. So in case you wanted to go back, try to get hole in ones everywhere or get 1 stars everywhere, you absolutely could do that.
And instead of all 100, show us your favorite level.
My favorite level, honestly, I think I already showed it to you guys. Like, it's probably 44, and like this, I really mean it. Like, though I did this by myself, there was like a lot of love that was kind of poured into me from friends and from like some of the people that are even here today. So like for me, I have more of a personal connection with this level, which is why it's pink. I have a personal collection. I think it's number 7. Level 7 has a pink flag. That's another shout out to another friend that did all of the capsule art in the trailer, and like they were just like, no, like I just want to support you. And I was like, this is crazy that you're doing this. So for me, it's probably levels 44 and level 7, not because of the design, but really because of just it makes me just think about like the support that I had, and both of those people actually were ones I met through those co-working communities, and but yeah, I mean, like, so for me, I know you're probably waiting for me to show you some cool level with a dragon, but unfortunately it's for me it's more like what kind of hits at my heartstrings more. And when I see this color, this shade of purple, it really just like reminds me of just not just this one person, but just all of the love that I received and support I received from people, because it's hard. I mean, like, solo dev is tough, and like I love that I also work with a group of 3 on like other games that we're also trying to kind of make something together. Um, but sometimes it gets pretty quiet, so it's nice when like you're kind of someone checks in and is just like, hey, how are things? Like, can you just show me how the game is going? So just seeing this color purple honestly reminds me just like of that support, because yeah, it gets pretty quiet sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning. So yeah.
Okay, hold on. That perfectly leads into a question that has been queued up. What changes are you making with your next game to not be up until 2 a.m. every night?
Um, I'm still keeping the game small, but I don't have a goalpost per se. Like there's no like sports fest that I'm trying to hit. Um, and I'm okay with like not releasing the game for the sake of being able to attend Next Fest, being able to really market it and build the number of wish lists that I want to do. So just not being like that hard on myself really is the big thing. Because there were moments where it was just like, no, like I want to go play Expedition 33, but I was just like, no, like you got to lock in. Like this is I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to meet a date. And the thing is, what's hard about the Sports Fest is that unlike Next Fest, where your game doesn't have to be released, you just need a demo up. Sports Fest, Steam requires your game to be up, and that's a whole other process that I was never really familiar with. Like forming an LLC, um, getting your game up on Steam, like that's a process, and I was sweating when they like rejected one of my builds, and the internet's like, yeah, it may take 2 more weeks for them to maybe like retest it. And I'm messaging them like, listen, you got to hear me out. It was an accident. I didn't know that the wrong achievement was set up. Um, so for me, it's really just not being hard on myself and having a more realistic timeline. But it's still a process. It's still something that I'm kind of learning and working on, because I do like having that goalpost. Because if not, then I'm working on the game forever. Um, but uh, but yeah, that's probably like the biggest thing. And also just telling myself you need to go to bed at midnight. Like it doesn't matter. Like I I've kind of recovered since then. But yeah, not fun to be like, because you're up late the night before. I'm like a like I'm still making time for it, but I'm a bad employee. I'm a bad friend. I'm a bad husband and father. So like, I'm just making sure that like that just doesn't happen again. Maybe on a weekend, but yeah.
one more queued up related question, not from me this time. What is on the horizon for your next endeavor?
Um, that's a great question. So, you guys are gonna be like, bro, do you like promote body doubling? I actually my next game, which I mean, like I'll talk about this like another time because I really want people to like show off the stuff they're working on and whatnot. So I'm not gonna like open up Godot and show things. But my next game is actually a way of me kind of showing love back to all of the co-working communities that I've been a part of. One thing that is at breakfast. You're very funny, Petunia. I need to stop looking at your messages because they keep making me laugh. Um, but I'm making a game. It's called Streamstead, and it's essentially there's a game that came out actually probably like a month or two ago called On Together, which is essentially like, hey, let's gamify body doubling, and it's been I mean I put a lot of time into it. It's a really fun game, and the devs have done a fantastic job with it. Um, for me, I've been wanting to make something very similar to On Together for a while now, but it's more kind of focused. And I get that this is a little bit more niche, but it's more focused towards like the streamer and not just like the gamer that just wants to study. So spending a lot of time in co-working community, spending a lot of time body doubling in On Together and outside of On Together, I've just like learned a lot of like, hey, I wish this existed. And I've learned that like through streaming, I'm not to myself, like watching streamers, one way that people really connect with body doubling is like having a presence, whether it's your name being on the screen or whatever. So essentially, I'm making like a virtual body doubling game that at least for the first iteration, because I acknowledge scope creep's a thing, and I'm like, no, I will actually work on future updates of this, just not 1.0. Um, for the first iteration, it's designed just for streamers, and then with future waves, I want to give the ability to have then anyone join from their desktop and be able to kind of co-work together. And then the third one would be maybe giving you more power to kind of create a world. Um, it will be another floating game, so kind of think about like doing your, working on your desktop. And now instead of seeing a golf course on the bottom, you're just seeing other people that are kind of body doubling with you. So for me, it's honestly my way of saying like thank you to those communities, um, and uh, and also seeing like what I feel is like a need, and a want from some of those communities. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of talk more about that another time, and maybe in one of the future meetups, I'll be able to show it off.
With,
Oh, I can't
What do you
hear.
think were unexpected issues when you were actually releasing? You mentioned you had some you said you had some Steam build issues. What else?
Yeah, for sure. So for me, I because the game had to be so one, it was like I never like please factor in time for releasing your game on Steam. My. But like one of the big ones was I I what why am I just drawing a blank right now? Um when oh yeah, was the build process of them approving your game. I think what had happened was I had achievements enabled but I didn't have any no, oh no, the Steam page said there were achievements, but I didn't enable it yet in the build. And they were like, there's an inconsistency here, rejected. And I'm like, no, 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 no. You're not gonna make me wait 2 weeks just because of that. Um, but it was fine. They were really quick with it. Um, Another big one that like actually caused me to sweat for a little bit was Steam is also really particular on how often you're able to have your games go on sale, and because with Sports Fest, um your game needs to have already been released. I had a launch sale for my game, and I think what I had done is I timed it right that you can launch your game with 2 weeks being on sale for 2 weeks, I believe it was. And I was just like, I mean, a week is fine because then I'm just going to go into Sports Fest with a different sale. I learned the day before Sports Fest, like, dude, that's not how that works. Your game is going to enter Sports Fest not on sale. And again, with like the little visibility that I was going to get from the game that I was hoping to bank from Sports Fest, I was like, man, like, I probably should have this game on sale. So that was kind of a little bit of a sweaty mess, but thankfully, I mean, like, I put in a ticket and I was like, listen, like, this was honestly just an oopsie. And Valve got back to me and they were like, "No, we hear you. Like that makes sense. Like don't do it again, but we've extended it to 2 weeks." But that was definitely a pretty sweaty half day where I was like, "Oh no, what's going on?" Um that was probably another one, and I mean honestly, and this is just me again, like you've seen how long I've been doing this. getting oh, hold on, I can hear myself. I'm gonna mute the room for 1 second. Um, being able to like start a business and like build out like like a good looking page and capsule art and making trailers, like I really didn't put together like how much time that was going to take. So for me, like I'm glad I was able to make it in time. But that definitely was like a pretty like stressful moment that like I won't do in the future. Like I will be reaching out to artists a lot sooner and not when the game is done a month before release and I'm having to pay for expedited work because I need it now. So yeah.
Okay. I don't know if you can hear me, but
I do.
I think we need to end it there. And if there are any other questions in chat that you don't mind answering, you can answer them offline. So
For sure.
I want to thank you very much for this really informative and fun postmortem. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, guys.
Okay, we do have a little bit of time. If anyone wants to show anything that they're working on, I know Rick and Rodrigo have been working on something for Bracket.